Good evening and welcome folks to our September Board Workshop meeting. As I always say, these workshop meetings are an opportunity for us to go a little bit more into more detail, more depth about items on the agenda that we'll be voting on next Tuesday at our board voting meeting. So I would ask administrators and board members to, if there's any question or issue at all related to any items, to please slow us down a little bit if necessary, and we can talk through whatever item that might involve. So welcome. We're going to start off this evening with recognitions for tenured teachers, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Phillips for those recognitions.
Thank you, Dr. Hamburger. This is a special time. This is the point when the teachers have put in their 3 years and they're receiving tenure. So this is a really important time for them, as well as a bit of a rite of passage. So I'm looking out, and I think we don't have any of them here right now. So what I'm going to do is ask principals to come up and collect them and give to them tomorrow if you can. Micah Albrecht, the high school. Is anybody? I saw Jason out there. Sorry. For Micah. Thank you.
Come on.
Ashley Barbary.
Let's go. I can take hers.
You want to take Jackson Walls?
Yeah.
Thank you. You will be now Jackson Walls. Thank you. Stephanie Bond. Oh, there you go. Melissa Dow. Joe, can I ask you to give that to her? Thank you. Christina Flanagan. Okay. Courtney Harper. Thank you. Sarah Herschelroth. Alexa Schaefer. Thank you. And Cynthia Strano. So I know that a lot of them had something to do tonight. They did contact us, but we just want to make sure we recognize them and thank them for their beginnings of their career. They hit a milestone.
Dr. Cole, could you just kind of briefly explain the tenure system?
Sure.
And why these people are
being recognized? Sure. Well, I mean, first off, the Pennsylvania Department of Education sets some qualifications. They have to complete so many credits. They have to complete the induction process. They have to get through the first 3 years, through all the trials and tribulations of beginning a career, and do it successfully. They get their evaluations. They must be satisfactory. So, I mean, it's unlike some careers where you get hired and you go off and do your thing. They have some strict regulations that they must follow for their first 3 years. And when you do it successfully, you're granted tenure in the state of Pennsylvania. And they've all done that successfully. We recognize their efforts and we review that. And if it's done successfully, I check it off, sign off with Pennsylvania Department of Education that they've met those requirements. And then they're recognized as tenured teachers. So I think it's worth a round of applause, even though they're not here.
Thanks, Dr. Phillips. We're going to move along to our building program report for this evening, and Dr. Gary, please, and we're going to be talking about things that are happening at the Reagan School.
Thank you. We have begun the school year with 621 students, which is pretty amazing because last year around this time we were at
Is your mic on, bro?
I think I turned it off. I'm sorry. Hit that little button, you'll see it turn green. I never see the
Testing.
That time.
I'll start over. Last year we had around 570 students. This year we are at 621 students, which is an interesting way to start the year out. Last year we had 2 empty classrooms, and now all of our classrooms in the building are filled. We had an additional 6th grade class this year. We also added an MDS classroom. We had one about 5 or 6 years ago, so it's been quite a while since we've had MDS, life skills and autistic support all together in the same building, so it's really nice to have our MDS classroom back. But it's a rather full building. I think the largest number of students we had since I've been at Rifton was 720, so we're still 100 under that number, but it's been a good start to the school year. Just to go through and hit some of the highlights under student achievement, we're in our 5th year of our investigations math program and CPM program. Our teachers continue to do a very nice job with that. We're working hard to get our scores up. Last summer, not this past summer, but the summer before, they worked on math curriculum binders, and they continue to add to that and to use that to help them with pacing, and also it helps us with assessment as well. Our math teachers are in the 2nd year of using our IXL program. That's going very well. We will be using that in our Eagle Block. Sometimes they'll use that at home, and occasionally we'll be using it in the classroom as well. Our students are going to continue to be benchmarked using STAR Math and STAR Reading. Last year was the first year for STAR Math in our building. That was a success. We are looking forward to analyzing as a building our PSSA scores. We're going to be doing that on the early dismissal that's coming up in September. We continue to do some really good things in ELA. Julie Klein, as well as Karen D'Annunzio, and a lot of the people in the English department over the summer worked on revising the curriculum guide for ELA, and they just did a super job. We are looking forward to continuing Writing to Learn in our building. Many years ago, we sent people to our PLN, or we sent actually our PLN group to learn about how to incorporate writing into science and social studies and even math as well, and we're continuing to do that. We're working hard at that. This will be our 1st year with the new social studies and science curriculum. We are using the FOSS Next Generation Science Kits. You may have remembered that we used to use FOSS before. This is the 2nd generation. It's more detailed, and I've heard nothing but really good things from our teachers in the first 9 days of the school year. In social studies, our 5th grade teachers are using the Pearson Building Our Country series. 6th grade is using My World Interactive Geography, and we are going to be integrating Writing to Learn in that as well. For our 3rd year, we have our teachers that are using Chromebooks with our students. The first year that we sent 5th and 6th grade Chromebooks home was kind of interesting. In our first year of having Chromebooks at Rifton, we sent them home in 6th grade right before Christmas time, and 5th grade went home at the end of the 3rd quarter, beginning of 4th quarter. Last year, 5th grade Chromebooks went home at the beginning of the 2nd semester. This year, Chromebooks went home in 5th grade last Wednesday. Our kids are really able to use them now. They're getting a lot out of it. It's being used all across the curriculum, and they've done a very nice job. Last week we had curriculum overview at Rifton. We had a very nice turnout, but we had Missy Dow and Dan Wilczak came out, and they both spoke actually one spoke to our 5th grade parents, the other one spoke to our 6th grade parents, and they spoke about Schoology. And we have right now a total of 360 parents that have signed up for Schoology, which is going to be terrific. It's a great way for our teachers to communicate with parents, and we hope to grow that number as the year goes on. I'm going to be sending home information several times throughout the year to try to see if we can get everybody signed up, if at all possible, because it really is a great tool. Our school counselors, librarian, and classroom teachers are continuing to instruct students in digital citizenship. Because we have the Chromebooks, we want to make sure that our students continue to use them the right way, both in school and at home. And our teachers have done a nice job, as I said, not just our counselors, but our librarian as well. They really have done a nice job. Programs and initiatives. We're doing something this year called the Good News Call of the Day. This actually came about 4 years ago by a principal by the name of Mark French. He's a principal for Gatewood Elementary School in Minnesota. And what he would do is recognize students for doing something good. Maybe it's an act of kindness, maybe it's improved test scores, maybe they did something that they've never done before and they're being recognized by a teacher or custodian or anyone in the building for that matter. And this Good News Call of the Day goes out by the principal. Usually the student is called to the office, or the principal goes down and gets them, brings them up to the office. They make a phone call to the parent. The child gets his picture taken, and we put it on Facebook, on Twitter, on the website, to try to get out to everyone the good things that happen. Now, I know as a teacher, and even as a principal, I make a lot of calls that are not so much the good news calls of the day. They're probably the opposite of that. But I've always, even as a teacher, I always thought, boy, it would be nice if I had time to do that. And I have a goal this year, and this idea actually came about from Maggie Wright, who actually gave that to me when she was still at Rifton. The goal is to make 130 calls and stick 130 pictures on Facebook and Twitter. I did one last week. It was last Friday. It was my second one, and we actually had 2 students in the picture, and Teresa Wentling. She was really into it. She had bright pink shoes on. We made sure we got that in the picture. And I had 512 people that actually clicked on that picture and read what the Good News Call of the Day was about, which I thought was pretty neat. Now, I only have 22 for today's, but there's still time between now and midnight to get them. So if anyone gets a chance, please click on it several times. So yeah, that's the Good News Call of the Day. Our March author visit, we have a woman by the name of Jennifer Nielsen. She's an award-winning author who is coming to Rifton. She has written several books, Resistance, A Night Divided, The False Prince, and Words on Fire. I'm looking forward to that one. And Words on Fire is a big one with the students. We have used it before for reading intervention, and she is a best-selling author, and it is being paid for by our APT. And Elizabeth Caruso, who is our librarian, has done a lot of research on this, so we're hoping for a really, really good author visit this year. And finally, the last thing that I have on here is about team building. We are doing team building this year for our 5th and 6th grade students. We did it today for 6th grade. It was a beautiful day. It gives all of our students a chance to learn how to act as a team and how to support each other. And it really has been a good thing over the years, and we're looking forward to a great 5th grade one, and that will be on Thursday. I believe the high is supposed to be 90, but we'll make sure we have plenty of water. All right. Any questions?
Just 2 questions. So the increase in students that you had at the start of the school year, were you prepared for those?
Yes. However, we are getting what I always call the trickle effect. We just seem to be getting them probably in the last 3 weeks. There's just a ton of them that seem to be coming in. Even when I wrote this last week, 5th grade we had 316 students, and grade 6 was 305. We're right now at 318, and in 5th grade 303 in 6th. That hasn't changed the number, but it just shows you that that it is increasing. Just ran into Joe Way the other day. He was coming into the building, and he said to me, "Greg, why are you getting so many students?" He had to bring extra Chromebooks over, which is good and bad, but yeah.
So from a classroom perspective,
We're fine.
Pardon?
From a classroom perspective, we're fine in terms of our numbers, but yeah, they really are going. We haven't had this like this in a while. They really are moving up.
So the other question I had then has to do with managing the school with Maggie moving up to the high school. A couple of years ago, I think we brought in somebody by the name of Gwen Malecki. assist you.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering where we are relative to some assistance now.
My understanding is you're interviewing next,
Not next week, but the following week. I want to say it's Tuesday and Wednesday of the following week.
so I've had off and on discussions with Dr. Friesen. At this point, he's managing. I think what we'll do is reassess the situation when we decide on a candidate. If a candidate is going to be a while, we'll probably have to bring in some help.
It's good for weight loss right now.
You must mean for yourself, because I'm thinking it for Dr. Phil.
He's doing fine. He really is.
Well, I kind of have to. That's the other story.
Dr. Reese, are these students coming from our school, or are they coming from outside school? You know what I'm saying?
The numbers,
Yeah.
right now, they're coming from outside the district.
So how many extra students would you say are coming, or where are they coming from? Are they coming, what districts are they coming from?
They're coming from all over. I think we just got one the other day from Governor Mifflin. We've had some from, locally, the districts around us. But, we've had some others come from different places as well.
So when in June, what was your count? We're coming up to, from the 4th grade. Do you remember?
I don't know, Ann, what did we have that at? Was that like? It was enough to have 12 5th grade and 12 6th grade classrooms. Yes.
And so now
It was enough at that time to prepare for 12 and 12 for August, yes.
and now we need how many more classes?
We're fine with our numbers. They're just, as I said, they're just continuing to grow, but we're okay room-wise right now and teacher-wise.
So what is the number of students in the class?
We are around 27 in each room. Yes, we've always said that we could go to 28, but we're around 27. I think there's a couple rooms that might have 26, but for the most part, they're around 27.
We presented 614, so 7 above.
Seven above what the projection
What the projection was. Projected 6.
So we allowed some move-ins and things like that, but they're more than we thought.
Well, it's a good thing that people realize what the school district is having now to, make sure that, enough staff to make sure that, they still get quality education.
We still have the vacancy sign outside the building. Yep.
Dr. Freeze, thank you. Have a great school year. Okay, we're going to move through the agenda. The next section is our opportunity for public comments. If anyone in the audience would like to anything relative to the agenda or to the district, just identify yourself and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Christy Coble. I teach at the senior high school. I live at 471 Shelbourne Road here in the community. 9D on the agenda tonight deals with Susan Lazarich. She does work at the high school. Back in November of 2017, we voted on Dory Putnam Baker to provide these services at a fee of $250 for an hour. Susan's fees are $100 for 1 hour, so it is less money. It's the same person providing those services. Those services that are provided to our high school students are tremendous. She does the peers group, she does DBT, a lot of problem solving, confidence building, communication, also working with coping skills. I have seen such growth in the students that she works with at the high school. I feel the work she does is very much needed, especially for our students who are going out into our local community, keeping jobs, being able to regulate those emotions and hold those relationships and have those communication skills and know how to handle those emotions are a tremendous thing for them to get throughout the day. I know mental health is huge. I know the state is really pushing trauma-informed schools. I think she does provide that to us as well. But I do know that the money to me when I looked at that seemed high, but it is less than what we were paying before for the exact same person to provide those services. So I'd just like you to consider that as you look through the agenda tonight and next week when you're voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Christie. Any other comments? Okay, we're going to move on through the agenda to minutes. There are 3 sets of minutes on the agenda for next Tuesday, the board workshop minutes of August 13th, as well as a special voting meeting from the 13th, and then the regular board voting minutes of the 20th. Next section, policies. We'll be approving next week several policies for second reading. We continue to move through our section 700 of the policy, which focuses more on school facilities. We've already had some discussions on policies A through F, which again will be for second reading. Then moving into first reading, and these are the first time we've seen these. We'll be doing a policy on cellular telephones, and this is a brand new policy. Worth taking a quick look at. I mean, it's talking about the discretion of the superintendent to delegate or to issue cell phones to select employees in the district and the conditions under which they should be used. Policy 718, service animals in the school, which I thought was somewhat interesting because that's also a new policy, but it references miniature ponies, which I think is really never occurred to me as a service animal in school. And I'm not sure if we have any miniature ponies in our school or
Not at
any
this
of our
time.
school buses or anything.
Not at this time.
But it was, I don't even know why that's in there as a special, I wonder where the other animals are. You know,
We do have service animals in the district.
I've
never seen or heard of.
I actually think of dogs, but,
I read a story a couple of years ago of a horse on a plane.
so it's a service.
Yeah, it's a service animal, yeah.
I guess it's, I mean, to me, it just seems unusual. I wonder if there are other species that are used as well. But that's an interesting policy review and an important policy, particularly for, it's applicable, most applicable for individuals with disabilities. A couple other policies that are really important here, the records management, policy 800. And again, this is a new policy where if you look at the policy pretty closely, it gives us some discretion in terms of identifying who our records coordinator, records manager will be for the school district and the type of records that we should be maintaining, how long we should retain those records. And these aren't student records, these are school district, these are agenda minutes and financial information, annual audits, and that sort of thing. And the process that we use for overseeing and managing that also talks about a board committee, the board designating a committee that's representative of a number of individuals from the administration and staff, as well as board members to have periodic meetings to discuss the process for managing the school district records. It defines what a record is, and it also then gets into some of the electronic aspects of records as well. So I think it's a really important policy and something that I think our administration should look at very carefully, just to make sure that we're going to be able to kind of maintain compliance with that. 801 is public records, and there's just been some updates in that policy. That's not a new policy, but the district's district's fees for the copying of records, I think, is modified in this document. And this is the open records policy. Patrick, I think this is the policy that you oversee, if I'm not mistaken. You're listed as the open records.
Yes.
Look new,
Sorry,
okay.
no, yeah, I was thinking right to know.
Yeah, this is a
Correct.
Policy 802 is school organization. Administrators, we take a good look at that too. It just simply updates the current configuration of the school district, K to 4, 5, and 6 is listed as an intermediate school. I'm not so sure if that's how we intend that to be identified, and then junior high and high school. But it's a very brief policy, but it outlines school organization. Then school calendar is a policy that pretty much outlines the process for an annual calendar that's initiated by the superintendent's office, reviewed by the board, approved by the board, and also emphasizes the fact that the board retains the right to alter the school calendar as needed throughout the school year. And school day, finally, a new policy that I think is relatively simple policy, but reflects, more of a definition of what a school day represents. So those are policies for first reading, plenty of opportunity for administration, for board members to submit comments, make recommendations, send those to Don and Natalie if any occur to you. Any comments on
Yeah.
these?
Does the district utilize electronic archiving for any of our paper records now? Because I can't remember the full commission title, but the Historical Commission through the Pennsylvania Museum. I'm not sure what the title is right now off the top of my head. I know they just changed the rule though that you can store permanent records in PDF files. Does the district utilize that at all? I know it probably is the case for email, but that's a little bit different.
Well, student records are scanned and maintained electronically. Financial records, we do save all the reports PDF within our financial software. So yeah, we are moving for that. We still maintain hard copies of all those permanent minutes. They are electronic, but we also maintain hard copies.
That's right. There are some requirements to what you need to hold and what you need to hold for so many years. So we try to stay with that. But yes, moving toward electronic files is a much more efficient method.
Yeah, these are different policies. I mean, we've got student records, education records, and then we've got, the district records that are reflected in this policy. Yeah, I don't see any prohibition in the policy that would suggest that we can't maintain electronic copies of everything. I'm not sure whether it's convenient or not, what the best process would be. But you're right. I think a lot of organizations are moving to try to go with the paperless system to reduce the problems associated. And also to facilitate retreat. I mean, it's a lot easier to kind of get records back, when you have those available electronically than if you have to shove it through paper.
Some of them still are hard copy, accounts payable, some of our capital asset records, bids that we have, we're still.
Dr. Hamburger, how many more policies must we go through until we get to the end of the line?
Are you getting tired of these?
more.
You know what? You're going to be doing these until you're off the
Just go
board.
on indefinitely or what?
We have to circle back and start getting the ones we just have to update.
I'll say we will not be done in your tenure.
You can come back to the meetings if you
No.
want to hear more.
No, I mean, seriously, I'm.
There's 900s.
Yeah, we're making headway. We're in the 800s right now. So, and I think that the policies become simpler as we get through the 800s and 900s. So, so I think by the end of the year, we'll have them all done. We're ready to start all over again with the triple zeros.
I was just wondering.
Yeah. Any other questions about policy?
I have a comment or question about the cell phone policy. And the one part is mentioned in it says that they can't be used except in emergency situations. And as we all know, we were at Watton Creek for our board retreat a couple weeks ago. And I did not get cell service there, and a lot of people don't get cell service there. And I'm just concerned about that because in an emergency situation, that's concerning that teachers or staff cannot get cell service.
Mr. Way, I know we've discussed this many times about the Wi-Fi service with the phone. Can you speak a little bit on what we're trying to do?
There is a Wi-Fi your phones can get on Wi-Fi and do Wi-Fi calling. Unfortunately, the low E design of the building, the solar panels, the low E glass, the way the construction materials, we would need to build a private Wi-Fi network internally, and we would have to pick, which carriers we would support, which frequencies. I mean, so every time a cell carrier would upgrade from 3G to 4G to 5G, we would need to upgrade. And I think when the building was built, it was an additional $70,000 or $80,000 per carrier to outfit the inside of the building with, basically to amplify inside the building. Like I said, we've been working it all, with the internal Wi-Fi to try and set up a network so that all the teachers could get their phones on the Wi-Fi to do Wi-Fi calling.
You have to set that up on your phone.
You do.
As well. Because I
You
know I
have to
get
enable
services,
Wi-Fi.
I think Sean took care of me as far as whatever I needed to do to my phone.
Yep.
But there's a special setting on the phone that will allow you to make calls.
Okay. So are you recommending that all teachers get onto the cellular?
It was shared early in the spring with them that they could put their phone on if they wanted to. Again, it's their choice. They have to accept a certificate on their phone that they're on our network and then they're using it. It's not like we're tracking anything on their phone, but they have to accept district certificates on their phone, and some people just chose not to do that.
So honestly, if you wanted to, we have another retreat up there and you wanted to get Wi-Fi service, same situation, go online, accept the certificate, and you would get the service.
Yeah, we tried, but there was some sort of like, I don't remember what it was. But
There was
it
something
wouldn't-
like a whole lot, even my own phone, I tried to do it, it wouldn't link in with my iPhone. And I didn't know if, I know you said it was last spring, is this something like just rolled out once, or is it like one of those memos that goes out to teachers like once a month, like, a little splashy email says, remember, if you need to get Wi-Fi, we have it
The
now.
public Wi-Fi that's there, if you choose public Wi-Fi, there's no authentication, but what it does is it puts your phone in the lowest minimum, or the most secure internet filter. So if you want to get to like Twitter or YouTube or do any of those things, it will be blocked. Wi-Fi dialing will not, so the phone would still dial. What we did for our teachers is we set it so they could put their phones on ETSD secure, which gives them access to all of the same things that they would have as a teacher, and not student filter set. So like when Dr. Phillips goes out, he wants to be able to maintain the apps that he uses in all the buildings, so he's on that Wi-Fi and can do Wi-Fi calling. But anyone that's in the building can hop on public Wi-Fi and have Wi-Fi calling.
You don't need to have a special login.
Your phone carrier has to support it.
Excuse me?
Your phone carrier has to support it, and your phone has to support it. So that's the thing. If you have an iPhone 6S, some carriers allow it and some don't. If you have a 7, almost all carriers support Wi-Fi calling. In the Android world, it's a little different. Some phones do and some phones don't. So the ability to use the Wi-Fi, what happens is your phone sees the carrier over the internet and then allows your phone traffic to be used over the internet, not over the radio for their cell service. If your carrier doesn't support that, then it won't work, unfortunately. And if you don't have a smartphone, it also won't work.
I can just tell you that, with trying to get all the good stuff that's going out in our buildings and tweet it out as soon as possible, it was very frustrating to be in the building, take a picture of the kids doing what they were doing, have to leave the building and come back to here or go outside. So whatever Sean did, I can go into the basement at the high school, I can be in Rifton, I can be in Pawanton Creek, and I immediately get service, my tweet goes right out. So I don't know what he did to my phone to have that happen, but
Well, that's
that's something you have to do.
that's the CTSD
And Mrs. Holler here, we can actually, or Dr. Holler, I'm sorry. Dr. Holler's here, she can throw it out to her teachers again. Maybe we can have Sean pop up there and do that for them if they want to.
Or like I said, the alternate is to figure out, if because we happen to use AT&T, if we were to outfit the building for the use of AT&T radios, then Verizon wouldn't work or T-Mobile wouldn't work. So we would actually have to build out internal carrier networks for all the supported carriers if we wanted to be completely open. So that's where it starts to become sort of expensive.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. I also want to make just a comment that this particular policy, the cell phone policy, has 2 references to administrative regulations. One for how delegation or the provision of cell phones should be maintained and controlled. And the other is a regulation on use of their own private cell phones for authorized district business. So I don't know whether PSBA has provided us with administrative regulations in those two areas, but I think those were kind of important complements to this policy.
Building off of Dave's comments, do we have anything that you guys are looking at in the administrative regulations for phones that can have multiple SIM cards? So a big thing now is the new iPhones, and I think the Androids are moving towards that technology, are capable of having a second SIM card. I don't know if the technology exists where you can use it now, but in the next couple of years, you'll be able to have like a personal phone, and then the district SIM card is a second card in there. Is there any type of thought that's been?
Mr. White, I don't believe we have anything like that right now.
I mean, I think currently, a lot of our administrators carry a personal phone and carry a work phone, like I do, just to sort of keep the separation. But for some people, there is no such thing as separation, because when they're not here and they're getting a call, most likely it is work. So, some folks have one phone. A phone with dual SIMs, to some extent, how the phones are designed, some phones actually segment off personal area on the phone and business area on the phone, so that I think some people would prefer a personal phone be their personal phone and not have any connection to a work phone. So dual SIMs are also at this point in most of your higher end phones, which we're not buying. So we're buying pretty much the functional current models.
I think the thing that kind of complicates that a little bit, with the use of a personal phone and also to some degree with the district issue phone, is the fact that any communication, any text is discoverable, subject to a disclosure. If we get involved in, let's say, a lawsuit, you might be thinking you're communicating privately, but if it's a district issued device, that device and all the communications are really accessible to the school district and might be used, say, in a court of law, and might be confiscated and provided to the public. So it's really important, I think, for us to have a tight policy here, and also to make sure that our administrators are protected and understand that this is a device that is convenience, but ultimately it's the property of the school districts, and it's very important to kind of make sure people realize that potential issues or problems that could come about from using it. And this is rare that it could happen, but Joe, it does happen. We've seen it in other districts, and it can have devastating impacts. So I think it's really important that at least for everybody to be clearly aware, particularly texts that maintain a record.
And district business on a personal phone is completely admissible too. So if you think that you're going to use your phone, it's still, if there's communications work related, it's also admissible. So it becomes more complicated for you personally to deal with that, but it is certainly can become evidentiary. So you can take your phone.
Joe, do we use any encrypted FERPA compliant software in communicating amongst administrators regarding students?
The data that's in, we don't specifically use a piece of software to encrypt data, administrator to administrator now. We're using tokens and encryption in our mail system, but no, not really. Most of the stuff in Skyward is protected, both HIPAA and FERPA. But our email system, we have some practices that we do where we're not using students' names when we're sending information back and forth, full names, some other sort of regulations as to the way we would handle that.
Dr. Hamburger, 803 concerning calendar, under authority, the last sentence, the board reserves the right to alter the school calendar as in the best interest of the district. Does that speak to an overreach of governance?
No.
Short and sweet.
I mean, I think I think it's simply codifying what we already do. We've made modifications. I mean, obviously it has to go through the board approval process, but we've done that previously. You know, we've modified calendars, so it's just basically kind of laying out the fact that the board does reserve the right in any given year to modify a calendar if certain circumstances, require it. And we know that things have happened with weather-related issues. So that's primarily why it's there. I'm not sure, is that new language? Can you tell me that? Yeah, it is new language. Any other comments? Okay, we're going to move on to business functions. Mr. Gillum.
Next week, we'll be voting on some property tax refunds. Plan Con, Part K, project refinancing, general obligation bonds. 2018 per capita. Yes, I did, thank you. And a contract agreement with Chester County IU Brandywine Virtual Academy. I missed another one? Yes, you did.
One more you're out. You're straight.
2 months. Donation of batteries as well.
Question.
How does D relate to the virtual academy or the online?
Those are the K-8s.
It's just to fill in that gap.
Yes, yes.
Any other questions about the items for business functions for next week?
I'm going to go back to D also. Can you elaborate more on that when you say K through 8?
Well, because of the virtual program that the board approved to go through, we've shifted the BVNs from 9th through 12th grade students. They're now Exeter students. We don't have our virtual program down into the K-8 grades yet. There's a plan to move down there. So as soon as we move down there, we'll be shifting those students over to the Exeter program as well. We will no longer have use for the BVN program. We don't have teachers teaching those courses. We didn't participate, or we didn't purchase those types of programs yet, so we could offer those students.
So then is this new? Because I know when we had a virtual program, I thought that it was just older because I didn't know that we were offering it all the way down to K. So is this new?
No. This is the BVN that we've always offered. We've always offered BVN K through 12. Or BVN, I'm sorry, BVN. We've offered that for K to 12. But what we've done now is we've taken our 9 through 12 back to our virtual program.
Since I'm on board and clearly close to this, can you explain it a little bit more? And the reason why I ask is I work with a lot of charter school kids, and I work with several kids that are in the district. And I don't know about this well enough to tell you.
These are the supported cyber students. These are the students that we've recommended to go into that program. We do have supports provided for them. I'm sorry.
Actually, this program goes back to,
But it
it was the first alternative program to the cyber charter, and it was run through the CCI, it's run through CCIU, Brandywine Virtual Academy, so it's a more affordable option than the cyber program.
It's called like a school in a box. It's about 5,000-6,000.
Well, you're talking about something different.
Oh, okay, I'm confused.
You're talking about supported cyber.
The VLN, okay, I'm confusing VLN and BVA.
Supported cyber school, BVA, we've had for about 7 or 8 years, I think it was voted on. When I walked in the door, I was handed BVA, well, I handed it to that for winters. And he's taken it so happy. BVA, we now offer, it's been something offered in the district to help address all the kids needing to go to cyber charters during those years, and many districts are doing that. What do we offer if when a parent wants that option? So BVA has had that. We've had a K-12 this year, and then we started our own program more in-house. This is something we have subcontracted with CCIU, and it's brand new by Virtual Academy.
So then is this comparable to like a CCA or a GORA, that if a family were at one of the schools, they could,
Yes,
okay, I might bring you some kids back.
Yep, we did.
And the whole idea was for controlling costs, because we're looking at the cost of being 2/3 roughly, or less than what we were paying for the charters.
I just
Schools, and
inaccurately,
that's what that was bleeding out of the district. And on top of that, we started basically advertising that if you go and do this, you're going to get a diploma that says Exeter High School, because we're branding as Exeter through Brady Markets program.
And as we continue to grow our virtual program, we'll be bringing more of these things.
so then by any chance, when families, like I said, I work with some families, do we ever reach out to these families and say, hey, we have our own thing, or do we assume that they know?
We
or-
continue to reach out. A lot of the families that are out there did not want to come back for various reasons. I think what's going to happen is when they see not only the growth, but the effectiveness of our extra program, we'll be getting more back. And we won't be losing any, because instead of going out, they'll just go right into our virtual program.
Since we're on charter schools, but obviously this is not related, but it's related to charter schools. I heard a 21st century charter school advertisement today while driving my car.
You didn't see a big bulletin board, or you
Well,
didn't see a
this was-
TV ad, or anything else they spend their money on?
What came to attention is they said that the students in their program could then participate in our extracurricular activities, which I always thought that was something we did not allow. The second thing was, do we have any students do that? The third is, if we did, what are we charging them? I mean, we charge Antietam students, their school district of Clay 8, we charge 21st century for their students to come here. How does this all work out?
It never used.
I'm confused.
Sure, no. It never used to be that way, but now we have confidence. It used to be we had the ability to say no. But again, there's a lot of requirements that I don't know if they would be able to, practice times and things like that. But as far as I know, and I don't see Mr. O'Gara in the back, I don't think we have any of the numbers.
As far as I know, we don't have anyone in the cyber students that has been in the
No, just we had this discussion at the COLA meeting this morning. The amount of money that's going to the charters and the cyber charters is ridiculous. There have been big ads on 422. I don't know what that costs. Mr. DePita was probably more knowing what that kind of. It's not a few dollars.
Depends on what kind of billboard it is, we're on 422.
Yeah, and then that's there's TV ads, well into the thousands, I would think. They've sponsored the Reading Phil games. I mean, the money is out there. That's the dollars that we give to them.
But it's free education.
For the families,
Yeah.
until they pay their taxes.
Dr. Emmer, it says here that there's a Susan Glazerchik.
We're not there yet. You're way ahead.
We're not down to that.
We're not down to that part yet. We're getting there. Hang on, you want to leave, don't you?
Huh?
You want to get out of here, don't you?
No, I just wanted to find out about that.
That was actually the person that Mrs. Coble talked about. But we can, yeah. Understood. We'll get back to that. Hang on.
Any more questions relative to business functions? Okay, we'll move on to section 8, Personnel Committee, Mr. Japina.
So the Personnel Committee next week, we'll be looking at resignations, retirements.
What I was looking at was the on page before.
Is there the personnel? What's the other?
No, you're talking about the I'm sorry.
The agenda was changed.
Oh, you got the old agenda. Sorry, you got the old agenda. There you
Hunter
go.
has.
Mr. Evans will take care of it.
Pat, Hunter has it.
We're getting there though. That is on the agenda. We will discuss it if you'd like. We've moved it to the back end. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Thank you. All right.
So we'll be discussing resignations, retirements, appointments of certificated staff, support staff, certificated substitutes, and support substitutes, change of status for certificated staff, support staff, leaves of absence, course requests and conference requests.
Question about certificated staff change of status, item D. I see that Missy Dow is listed as the one person who's moving from temporary professional to professional status. What about the others that we just recognized this evening? Shouldn't they be there too?
No, the reason that was put on there was, she has like a day or two to actually get it completed from the state. So she went on there, but then I had asked Donna to already give her her certificate because it wouldn't be fair that she would be left out. So the others have already been finished in June. Because of a paper issue, Missy's is still at 3 days to be approved by the state.
So when will we approve the others' change of status? As approved?
By the time it comes to this, next Tuesday, she will have full tenure.
Right. So when are we going to do the other 6 or 7 that were approved this year?
I think we approved them already in the
You
June,
approved them
by
last
the end of the last
June,
year.
I think it was.
Can we
By
go
June,
ahead?
they had gotten it.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, Missy was the only
So
one.
we
that
just
did.
did the recommendations this evening.
Yeah, that's the way it works. Yeah, and I had asked Donna, that's the way we've done it every year.
Okay.
Yep.
Regarding number 16 of the training, I'm looking at Kelsey Eshtock, the safety care trainer certification. It's $13.25 for a 3-day course. Is that the most economical way to do the training, or is there an offer out there?
That company, that's a monopoly situation. They're very expensive, but that's what you pay for a trainer.
Do you need that training?
Yes, we do. We need a trainer. Number 16, and safety care trainer certification is done at the BCIU. When you receive that, then you're able to train our staff. So we recoup money there, if you will. We don't pay for a trainer, we come in and train our staff.
Dr. Phillips, the BCIU also is having challenges supporting our district with that, so they've requested that we have somebody certified in safety care to be the trainer.
We needed to add one.
Right, we had to, yes.
Anything else on the personnel? Okay. We'll move on to student functions. Mrs. Stratton.
Next week we'll be reporting on field trips that are within 60-mile radius, as well as voting on an agreement with Progression School, an agreement with Karen Foundation, and an agreement regarding doing better together with Susan Lazarevic.
There you go, Pat.
That's it. Thank you.
You had a question about
Yeah, I just
the
wanted
agreement.
the cost of $200 an hour, so I was wondering what her qualifications were for $200 an hour. It seems kind of high to me. And how many hours a day would she be working here? Or within a week, how many hours?
Well, it's 100 for 30 minutes, so it's actually $200 an hour. Yeah. Do you want to? We don't. It's not an every day, every hour basis.
She's not here every day. She supports our high school programming and here at Supported Cyber School with mental health. Her experience comes from, she was 15 years with the Partners Program at Reading Hospital and was one of their lead counselors as that program closed. She actually has been here, as one of our teachers had mentioned, with Dory Putnam organization. Susan has been with kind of a support to our special ed department for the last 2 years. This would be her 3rd year. And we've seen incredible growth in the kids with the DBT program and then our Here's UCLA program for our students with Asperger's and autism for their social skills programming. So Susan brings a unique quality that we are very hard to find when she connects with kids, and we're glad to have her here.
So what did she get paid last year?
After she worked under the contract of Dory Putnam, we paid Dory Putnam's company $250 an hour. I don't know what she got paid from the company. She was under that subcontract.
But she is
She's
less expensive than the company that we paid last year.
Very expensive.
Understood.
we're looking at this person's services versus the group we just brought in for the year, I think these are different types of services, they're not duplication.
None at all, no.
Dr. Miller, do you have a ballpark for about how many hours per year this might, or
She
week?
services students with autism for their social skills about an hour a week. Students with DVT at the high school, an hour a week at this point, she knows about that. And then students here at the supported cyber school, about an hour a week.
So about 3 hours a
About
week?
3 hours a week, more or less.
And that's 3, so that's, okay, 600.
How many students does she work with? Like, how many altogether?
It'll be ballpark, but I know our supported cyber school is roughly about 10 students, a little smaller group, but real high need. Our high school, what would you say?
Peers group last year was, I think, about 6.
Peers group
Six
for-
kids on and off, and then reflections was anywhere from like 4 to 8 kids throughout the year.
Very small groups.
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the costs redeemable through access,
No,
medical
they're
assistance?
not, they're not. I would make a comment, because we debriefed with Susan a lot throughout the year. It was very interesting, her conversation with me, because she had been 15 years as one of the primary counselors at Reading Hospital for the partners with the adolescent step-down unit after a student might have been in for a full time. She had said in her 15-year career, the students that she worked with, especially at the high school, were the most needy mental health students she'd ever met in her group last year, which shocked me. Because Partners is closed, kids get out of hospitals and they come right back to school. And we have such limited resources in Berks County for kids who get out of full hospitalization. And they're in hospitalizations maybe 4 days, 5 days, and you're back to school. And so Susan's working with our most needy kids who maybe used to go to Partners, and Partners isn't there any longer. And it shocked me when she told me that. She said, of my 15-year career at Partners, and she worked with some of the neediest students up there, she said, these are the neediest kids in mental health she'd ever met, and they're sitting right in her high school. And she said it was the most challenging year she had with kids with severe mental health. The mental health crisis in our schools is very real. I agree with you, Pat, she's expensive. I completely agree with you. I keep trying to negotiate her down a little bit. But it is services that they bring to us, and it is definitely well worth it because of the mental health that we're working on.
Do you ever see any improvement in these children?
We absolutely-
How is that?
We
How
absolutely
is their
do.
age?
We absolutely do. We try to do pre and post with all of our students that Susan's working with. Just a few examples, our students at supported cyber school who are in our afternoon class, again, have higher needs in mental health. The reason we love our DBT is dialectical behavioral therapy. Very interesting name, but it's very, it's someone like cognitive therapy. I was talking to Nina Owens, who is our special education teacher who works with Susan and our supported cyber school students in the afternoon. We had a student, just as one example, who Nina was following up with. She graduated last year. First of all, we have kids graduate, which is wonderful. These kids, this is the other thing, Susan, who's worked with our supported cyber school for the last 3 years. Everybody seems to think that Exeter doesn't have kids with trauma and kids with problems. We just, we're the golden community. And she came to me after her first year and she said, I was shocked at the amount of trauma that the kids that I'm working with in supported cyber school have in their lives and what they go home to every night. And Susan was able to give them skills that they could use when this trauma and the life that they had to live and walk into every night, they had to become adults and live their own life. And we had a student who was struggling, just as one example. Nina just told me about this. The student took pictures of all the stuff they learned and their skills and their strategies for handling stress and trauma and resilience. And she got back to Miss Owens, and Miss Owens, she had no parent to help her figure out how to go to college, how to apply to college. She asked Miss Owens to help her with some of those pieces, but all the anxiety came up and all the stress came up, and parents saying, you're no good and you're not going to be able to do this. The student got back to Miss Owens last week and said, I pulled up all of my DBT strategies that I was taught by Mrs. Lazarchek on my phone, took pictures of them all. And she's a student today at RAC. And it's because of all the strategies that she learned of how to get over stuff that she has to deal with at home and how to become a young woman and an adult, because that's our goal, is to get the kids to get past this stuff, to learn. Yes, it's difficult, you're going home to a family that may not support you, they may have their own mental health, and you have to learn strategies to become an adult in this world. And trauma is real, that's why the state is very much focused on trauma now, and we are ahead of the game in our district. I have learned through colleagues, we are the only district that is handling trauma the way we're handling it here. I've heard from colleagues, I've heard from interviews with people, that we're the only district that has the peers program for our autistic students. We're the only one in the state. It's something from California and it's starting to become more and more prevalent here. Outstanding program for children learning social skills who have autism. And we're very proud of that program. We're going into our second year now. And you guys have to stop me from talking about this, as you can tell how happy I'm about it. But the trauma we have at Exeter with our students is real. And Susan is one of those people who is making a huge difference with kids who have small groups of kids, yes. But the kids that have the real problems, and we're seeing a lot of positive results. And she's also teaching our teachers, when Susan's not there, how to reinforce this, how to teach, bring it back to the kids. We're also she's also going to be teaching our guidance counselors. Because Susan's only here 1 hour a week. The kids are here every day. We need our staff trained in how to implement the DBT every day, all the time, to help support the kids and bring them back to the skills they learn.
And that's your evidence, Pat.
I'm glad that I asked the question because
Absolutely.
I was thinking.
No, you asked a great question, and that's a question I asked too. That's a lot of money. I agree with you.
What, if it's worth it?
Money well spent.
Money well spent.
It is, so I was on the verge of not voting for it, but I will vote for it.
Thank you.
So, I have a couple of questions. The first one is, when you were talking about hospitalization for some of these students, can you kind of explain what that means? I think I understand what you're getting at. But
Students who are hospitalized for mental health. We have students on a regular basis go to the hospital for mental health. Suicide ideation, anxiety, sometimes even higher things like schizophrenia and so forth, and they are hospitalized because of their mental health conditions. Students don't ask to have mental health conditions, but many times it hits you when you're a teenager. That's when mental health conditions will actually come to the forefront many times. And they have to go through services, and they're getting wonderful care at a hospital. They're there full-time, they're in a residential facility or a full-time treatment center. But they're also very short stays most of the time. Maybe it's 4 days. A long stay is 2 weeks. And that's a long stay for a student who needs a lot of support. And then they're right back with us.
So in that process of hospitalization, is the county involved at all in that? Or is that all private insurance, all private hospitalization care?
As far as I know, it's private or access,
And the other question I have, and maybe this is a perception, and if you can address this, I'd appreciate it. It seems to me that there are a lot of vendors for the same population. We have a lot of vendors or contractors that were addressing some of the students with mental health needs that we've approved throughout the time that I've been on the board. As in, we have Supportive Concepts, we have this organization now. Is that correct? Do we have a lot of vendors providing different services to these same students or to the same population of students?
That is an excellent question. We have a contract with Progressions they offer counseling here, so we don't pay them anything. They just use space to have the counseling services here. We have a contract with the Karen Foundation that just approved last month, and that's for all of our staff. That's all the mental health for all of our students in the SAC program. We have this service for mental health. As far as other mental health, I may be drawing a blank, if anybody else.
I think the answer really is these organizations all deal with different layers.
Different layers.
They're not all dealing with the same student. They are dealing with different layers of need as well as I guess severity is probably the right word.
Severity, yeah. Laurel Lake, asking my peers here, what am I forgetting? Laurel Lake we just approved, and that is for mental health. That is for our emotional sports students mostly, and for special education and regular education students who are struggling emotionally, and those classrooms are being very utilized as we've opened up. This is day 10, and they are getting extremely utilized, and they're for kids that we are trying to keep in the district, so that goal is those students to keep in the district, but also students, this has come up in conversations, a Laurel Lake student who is getting the services of Laurel can still see their progression counselor at school. And we just also started with Berkshire Mental Health, a small program with them, but our goal is to grow them as large as we have progressions in the district at K to 12, because they can take kids who have all the insurances. And our new grant that we just received, we also can, because the way our district looks at it is that all kids who need mental health services, they should get it regardless of their ability to pay. And part of the grant allows for the grant money to pay for students to get mental health counseling services here, and the grant will pay for it. Because that is our mission, to get kids the mental health services that they need regardless of their ability to pay. And actually, just in 10 days, there's 3 kids that have already come to my attention that desperately need mental health services that don't have insurance.
So the reason I raise that question is because it makes me wonder, is there a provider that can do all that? And then also, has there been an analysis to look at, would the district save money by having our own staff to do this?
No, because it's such a big issue, there's no organization large enough to handle all those different layers, number one. Number two, what you're talking about is the provider 50 license to do all that. Those are they're the hardest thing that we tried when I was in my other previous district. We tried, and the hoops you need to go through to get one of those, it just doesn't work. So no, we are in need of organizations that provide each one of those layers, and we work with each different organization to meet the needs and the layers of the student's severity.
Also too, just to answer that question, I met with Berkshire Mental Health and Behavioral Health. They're one of the largest providers in our community, and we asked them about, I'm always saying, well, we have one counselor now coming one day a week. When can we increase that? When can we get somebody to your high? And they always know, and I'm trying to get work in the district. And they told me one of the problems in their profession is people don't want to work with kids. I was surprised. I was very surprised. They said they have a very hard time, and so they know our big goal within a year or two is to get more counselors here. But they were telling me they cannot find people who want to be mental health counselors for children because they're in a large adult population, and what I was informed is adults are not as complex as working with children, especially the small with the children. So I'm very grateful for progressions, but you can look at it that Berkshire Mental Health can take care of the whole thing, but in talking to them, I think we need progressions and Berkshire and possibly somebody else to handle it, because they told me they cannot find enough counselors to work with children and adolescents in the field. And also I learned over the last few years the complexity of getting these licenses. There's a lot of work for someone to get a master's level social worker, master's level clinician, and all the letters behind their names. It's umpteen hours of clinical work, someone dedicated to do that. So it's been an eye-opening experience for me to learn how we're trying to get these services for kids. And then other districts are also chiming in now, trying to get these services at school.
Is there any discussion long-term about trying to joint purchase some of these services through a countywide contract or a multi-district contract?
I haven't heard that.
Is that common that there are multi-district or entire countywide?
What I can say is, and Dr. Miller kind of alluded to it, the districts are really trying to get all theirs taken care of, and they're not willing to share, because it's tough. I mean, you have kids that you want to meet needs for, and you don't want to let a counselor share with another district if you can keep them in your district, number one. Number two, there's just not enough people out there. I mean, to the amount of services, you get a sense of people will work until they get another job. So there's a lot of transients going throughout. So you don't have that same person all the time. And we were talking about joint purchasing and things like that. They're not in a position, or we're not in a position to come to them and say, give us consortium pricing. Ms. Peja O'Brien's question about the cost of that lady. She's not going to get consortium pricing.
The other factor to remember is, though, all the kids that see progressions counselors cost us nothing. And all the kids who see Berkshire Mental Health cost us zero. Cost us absolutely zero. The only part that is going to come out of the grant is any kids who do not have health insurance. And part of the student services liaison position is for that person to work with the family, because there's so much health insurance out for children that possibly the family's not in a situation to understand what health insurance is out there for their children. But the majority, all the mental health we've been giving for the last 4 years for progressions has cost us zero. We just give them a room, a locked door, a desk and a phone. That's our commitment to them. And the rest of it, it's just like they move their mental health office from the middle of Reading right to like Lorraine Elementary, or Jacksonville. And so they're getting, so actually when you hear about like progressions and Berkshire mental health here, it's costing us zero. We're working in tandem with them and insurance companies to get services for kids at schools.
Just speaking of like normal children that don't have any, real tough family lives, do we like when the kids go like from, say, up to 4th grade and then they go to 5th grade, like when they go to Dr. Freeze, do they have like a mentor? Because a lot of times, kids get lost when they, come from a smaller area to a bigger area. And I was wondering, have we done that, like especially too, like when they go from the junior high to the senior high? Do we do that at all? That the teachers might, know that these kids might get lost in the shuffle again because they're, it's too big for them and they don't have anybody to help them out, like, especially, I can't even, when I go into high school, I don't even know where I'm at, because it's, they all look the same. And I was wondering about kids, when they go up to the high school, do they have a mentor or like from the junior high, from right into the junior high? Do we do that, help anybody out?
There isn't, at least at the high school, there isn't a mentor program currently going from the junior high to the high school. It's a little difficult because we don't have a homeroom period or an activity period currently during the day that would allow opportunities for those mentors to meet with those students. One of the things that we do find is that the students that the teachers that students are connecting with the most are the ones that they are with day in and day out. And while they may not consider each teacher to be the one that they would go to in a crunch, they all have a teacher that they would go to in a crunch, and whether that's someone that they have academically or whether it's a coach or a club advisor, there's lots of opportunities for students in that respect. But to answer your question, there isn't a specific mentor program due to the design of the schedule at the time.
That said, I would add that for specific populations of students who we might need additional support, we do have an opportunity for students to visit the building, to meet case managers, to meet personnel that they'll be interacting with on a regular basis at the end of the prior year to ease that transition for students. We recognize that certain students may need a little additional help, and so we provide that as frequently as possible.
And just to
Thank you, Mr. Flynn.
just to piggyback off of that, also, we do get that kind of information from the junior high school, and that is shared with high school counselors. So if there are students that are needing a greater level of support, but maybe don't have an IEP, that we are able to, and even if they do, we want to talk to their case managers, but we do have them on the radar, so to speak, so that we can help support them make that transition.
Thank you.
Real quick, does the district have any interaction with the county's provision of mental health services on any level?
We deal with Sam, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the same crisis, but the IDU, Dr. Jill Hackman and Ed Mahalik, they're the kind of head honchos and all this, and they work very closely with the districts, with coordinating, about mental health services.
Okay. Thank you.
That's good information, thanks, Tony Miller. Any other comments about student functions? We'll move on to the last section, which is education of PSBA officers, and next week we'll be voting on PSBA candidates for president, vice president, and then 2 individuals who serve as trustees on the PSBA Trust Board. and their bios and background information is, can be found in the attachment. Any questions about that? And I know we probably have some folks who are going to the PSBA conference in October. I don't know if we have reached our threshold as a district for those who can register, for the people who still register to go. But it's an excellent conference for board members to learn more, to network.
I think our voting delegates are attending the assembly to go, attending the student functions that Friday morning, which is
Yep.
that. But I haven't registered anyone else.
We have 2 folks going.
I'm not going to the conference because I have to work, but I'm going to the voting session.
So we have one, you're going to the voting session to show your, and you're just the voting session? Is anybody going to the conference? Somebody should go.
Hey Dave, you want to go to the conference?
I didn't go last year. I
did.
Did I go last year?
Yes, you did. Hey, you've been there.
Did we go? Okay, I thought that was 2 years ago. Okay, all right.
We ate lunch
Does
together.
somebody want to go?
I might want to go.
Okay. Well, why don't you contact Ann and get the information you need?
Right, there's day registrations, so you don't want to do each day, you do Thursday only.
Because I didn't really look at
Okay, go online.
We've tried to limit it to just the day enrollment and not necessarily for the stayovers, if possible. It's not that far of a distance.
enroll for 1 day or something.
You could go for 2 days, but back and forth, driving back and forth. Was it Thursday and Friday? Is it Thursday and Friday? Wednesday, Thursday. There's a pre-conference. Yeah. Is Wednesday the pre-conference?
No, it's Tuesday night that I think is pre-conference, and then Wednesday, Thursday.
Wednesday, Thursday. And there's a half day on Friday.
Yeah, but Friday has a general education session. I don't think they have workshop sessions on Friday.
Yeah.
Well, I went to it last year, and that was the first time I had gone to it. I was always like a voting delegate, myself and Mr. Clear. And I found it very, very, very educational. And I would suggest if Karen wants to go, I think she should go up there and stay there for those 3 nights. And it's not that expensive, and after all, I mean, people are there and spending their time, and with no cost at all to the district for what their services are that we render, for the whole district. And I don't see any bad thing about them going, because they do learn a lot about PSBA and all the different things that are available as a PSBA member.
Any other comments about the conference? I do want to say also that today, Dr. Phillips and I attended the COLA meeting. It was pretty interesting. This is the Council on Legislative Action at the IU. We saw Nathan Maines, who is the PSBA president, director.
He's the CEO.
Director, CEO. And then John Callahan, who is their primary lobbyist in Harrisburg, and Larry Kleinberg. Is our advocate ambassador. So it was a great presentation this morning, and they kind of filled us in on what some of the legislative initiatives are this year for a shortened, legislative session in Harrisburg. Also, some work they're doing at the federal level. And they brought some interesting information to us to be a little more aware of. There's a new service through PSBA. It's totally free, and I don't know if you know more about that than I do, but it has to do with
trainings.
It's not the trainings, it's the ability to use a PSBA service for crisis communications. And maybe you have some.
I know I sent this to Joe Wade to just check out. It's similar to what we have for our Safety Say Something. It's a crisis communication services. Now, this is a free service. This is the first time I've heard of this, so I don't know if you've gotten a chance, Mr. Wade, to even peruse it yet. It was something that was discussed as well. I shouldn't say discussed. It was something that was presented at the superintendent's meeting this morning. But it's something that
Very interesting.
Certainly worth looking into it at this point.
Okay.
Well, I thought it was more, let's say that there was a serious fire, let's say at the administration building, we could use them for the knowledge that they have acquired over how to respond. I didn't think it was something like that.
It's more like PR response.
I even looked into
It's to help you shape your message to your community. So they have 24/7 consultants available for free. So you have an immediate situation and you're trying to say, how do we handle this? How are we going to handle this? What kind of communication are we going to get out there? That's the nature of the service, and it's available to superintendents, school board presidents, and I guess other district administrators.
As soon as Mr. Ray looks at it, we'll have a report.
Yeah. And then the other thing I just want to mention is the IU will be handling the school board training. Board members who are returning will be required to do a 3-hour training. Re-elected board members, brand new board members will do a 5-hour training. And it sounds like the IU is going to be starting their training on December 7th at BCIU. So now I think this can be done online, I believe. There's some in-person training as well. So more to come about that, but we're all going to have to, everybody's going to be serving on the board again, and any new board members are going to have to get involved with that. So that's part of the new requirement. And I know you want to talk a little about tomorrow, 9/11.
Yeah, but before we go here, I just wanted to sort of invite everyone out to the high school tomorrow around 7:40. Mr. Dean?
It'll start at 7:40.
7:40, our 9/11 celebration, and we have a very interesting keynote speaker. He was one of the, I believe he was a doctor, correct?
Yes, he is.
He was one of the doctors that were actually sifting through the rubble.
Is
You want to give us a little bit more in depth, because I got what your email said, but
Sure. Really excited to have this gentleman with us. He is local. He's right in Why Missing. He is a psychiatrist, and he volunteered shortly after the events at 9/11. There was a website you can go to if you want to volunteer your services. He was selected, and so he went right down, and he was at ground zero with, like, I can't even imagine what he had to do, but it was his job to evaluate and assess the ability of those that were on the pile that were sifting through the rubble, whether or not they could continue to go back on the pile to search. And as you can imagine, these men and women were so passionate about trying to save everybody they could and find everybody they could. For him to be in a position to have to say, you know what, you're going to have to sit it out for a while and take a break, like, I can't even begin to imagine. So he has spoken with our forensics class in the past. He's an excellent communicator. He's great with kids. And so tomorrow he's going to get to share a little bit of a message about his experience, but also a lot about giving back in service. So we're very excited to have him, and the kids are going to really appreciate it. I know they will. They're always fantastic, and we'd love to have you.
a lot of our first responders will be there, a lot of legislators going out, so if you can make it out.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just one final thing, I neglected to mention that our transportation ad hoc committee did have its final meeting on August 22nd. We talked to Wayne McCullough, and through the work of Ian Guidish, we established some recommendations that will be shared at the voting meeting next week. So we have our presentations next week, and will help us understand some of the numbers behind the RFPs that came through for transportation and the direction we're going to be heading relative to transportation.
Dave, will there be a discussion thereafter about what direction the board wants to take with next steps?
I think there needs to be, I think we need to start, really kind of saying what are the next steps from here on. So I wanted to make sure that the board gets, the same kind of overview that we received, as a committee on the 22nd, so we understand, the rationale. So, are there any other board members who would like to be heard at this time?
I got just a couple of things. I see that Christy, Ted, and Maggie are here, and I just wondered if you guys could just give us a quick overview of how the first 10 days of school have gone in your new roles, just how things are going. I'm sure you you are supported, but just generally, how's it going?
It's been awful. Ted left in shambles.
Tom's gonna see the video, so go ahead.
No, personally, it certainly, it was unexpected, and so it was a transition. And there was kind of some days there that were a scramble between trying to leave Rifton, which I really care greatly about, and in a position to continue to have a successful opening, but yet also learn my new position at the high school. Ted left copious notes. I don't know what you were doing other than just writing notes, because everything is organized for me. It's just a matter of finding the time to read everything. And it's, but kids are kids everywhere. The staff is wonderful at the high school. They've been very helpful and supportive, and Tom and Jason have been great. They've allowed me the opportunity to learn the new skills. I'm just hoping everyone actually will graduate, because I'm AP, Keystones, and SATs and PSATs. I'm sure that I'm going to be held responsible. Someone's going to hunt me down when their child doesn't get scheduled for something. So that's keeping me up nights, but other than that, loving it. So I'm missing my Rifton hometown.
For me, it was a very easy transition because of the work that Christy and the staff have done there. So it's been great to kind of step in and see what's happening and not have to make changes or tweaks because there's such a great program already in place, and kind of just recognizing what that is, working with that, and coming to understand how things work there, and then adjust where I can and add my support where I can. So it's been a great experience. I'm thankful for the opportunity, thankful for all the work that's gone into getting it where it is.
The Watton staff has been great. The parents have been amazing. The kids are very cute. One little guy told me that he was sad that Mr. Freeze wasn't there because he really likes boy principals instead. And I was like, guess what? Got me now. It's been fun. I've been at lunch a lot. I did have a parent ask me how long I had worked in the cafeteria, not realizing that I was the principal, but I feel like that would be a compliment because some people, did write in. So it's been fun.
And I can add from the staff's perspective, they're pleased with everyone that's there. Again, same thing. I think the Jackson Law principals did a fantastic job. And we've said it a bunch of times, maybe privately but publicly, the three new, Dr. Holler's not necessarily new, but the three principals at the elementary level were working tremendously together. So it's been a really good team aspect, and I think that's been a big part to it as well.
I just wanted to apologize quick because I sent out a calendar invite for the student forum in October. I did not mean to send that out to anybody who got that. I'm pretty sure most of the people in the room got that, so I did not mean to send that out, and I just wanted to say that, so sorry.
We got your email.
I just wanted to make sure.
Spend more time at the board meeting talking about it.
We ignore your emails anyway, it's okay.
Well, that's why I wanted to make sure it was on the record, so. You can exclude that from the minutes. I'm part of it, so.
Mr. Brady.
Quick safety note, I know that when we were out at the Awadam playground 2 months ago, we were talking about updating the mulch there and putting new fence in, and then about a month ago at our facilities meeting, we talked about putting mulch in, a new fence in. As of tonight, there's no fence, there's no mulch, and frankly, it's a compacted area. I also walked through Jackson Wall's playground areas. I'm very concerned about the safety of our young children if they fall out from any of our equipment. So I just don't know what the status is, but I really thought this was supposed to be fixed before the day one of school, so I'm very disappointed.
Yeah, I'm working with the vendor. They received a purchase order. I'm trying to schedule a time for them where it's not impactful for the children on the playground. It is probably going to require some scheduling around classes and usage out there. So, that was a process that began well at the beginning of the summer, and I've been dealing with the vendor trying to set that up. As far as the fence goes, that was a mistake on the vendor's part of installing the wrong type of post. They've been in contact with me at the beginning of this week, actually. Yesterday, I spoke with the vendor. The materials are in. He's supposed to give me some dates that I can discuss with Christy as opposed to when those can be installed. So,
with regards to the mulch, what I saw was basically it's basically a broken down organic material, and at this point, you might as well just say it's a hard packed earth, which in reality, you really need about a 6 to 12 inch flexible surface built into there. It has some kind of rubbery kind of texture to it, so it's almost to the point where you need to remove the existing to put down the new. I know there's a rubber mat underneath the Awana Creek area. I don't think we have the same type of material underneath of what we see at Jacksonville, so it might be more than just throwing the emulsion on top. It's going to require a little bit more extra energy. I'm sure there's similar situations in other areas in our school district now, so I'll give you a heads up.
Do we have any updates on the baseball field at the high school?
Yep, the contractors, they were out last week at a different job site because they were waiting for some additional materials for our site, but they are back on site this week, so still projecting towards the end of September for the drainage to be completed and then the sodding and seeding process.
And what it looks like is they pretty much handled the infield, they moved to the outfield now. There's different swaths of drainage being placed.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I went to my first high school football game in a really, really, really long time on Friday night. And I sat up on the hill where the wishing well is. And I just want to say, I saw a lot of families sitting up there, talking, communicating, their kids playing together. And I saw a lot of people putting money in that wishing well. So I thought that was really cool because I had never experienced that before. So I think it's a really neat addition.
Anything else? Okay, great. Well, we're adjourned for this evening, and thanks for all